Hello, and welcome to this edition of EMS Now Up Close. I am Eric Miskell with EMS Now, and today it's my pleasure to speak with Jose Lopez, also referred to as Nacho by his colleagues. He is the CEO of Repstronics. Repstronics is a very interesting company that fits an important role within the electronics manufacturing industry in Mexico. And so I wanted to take an opportunity to highlight that. And he was kind enough to volunteer to come on and speak to me about it. So Nacho, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. Why don't we begin by just allowing you to introduce yourself, kind of what's your background in the industry and what you do, what your role is within Repstronics.
Yeah, well, Eric, thank you for the invitation and your time. I watch your videos all the time, so I appreciate for you to taking the time to speak also with Repstronics. So we started Repstronics almost 21 years ago. We have one focus in mind, which was bringing solutions. At that time, most of the products sold in Mexico were coming from people in the US. So they would come to Mexico, do the sales in the facilities, do the installation, and go back. So we saw a good market that us being local, we could help the customers not only to sell the machine and do the installation, but also help them afterwards. And that's been our one of our under the logo in Spanish, it's manufacturing solutions. And again, we thrive not to sell just one machine. We try to sell the complete solution with the service, installation, and everything. So that's how we started and how we saw that niche that was coming. And this was, again, almost 21 years ago, where Google Maps was not around, cell phones, only Blackberries, black and grayscale smartphones, etc.
Yeah, and I bet the industry probably didn't cover as many areas within Mexico back then as it does now either.
Yeah, we started with in Monterrey, which is the northeast part, and Mexico City and Guadalajara. Those were where we were physically, and from there we were just traveling nonstop, having 21 years younger. We had all the energy. We were a group of 3 people. Now we are 88. So it was just focus on that and focus on growing, meeting customers, knowing their customers, knowing what they need, what specific manufacturing needs they had, or what problems they were having with their manufacturing.
And tell me kind of the range of customers or brands that you currently represent. Speak to that. Tell us kind of the type of services you're representing.
Yeah, so I think that's one of our advantages as a company and as the companies that we work with, is that our main income, our biggest income comes from the SMT industry, but we started with the harness. So cable, cutting strip equipment. So we were more on the back end of the SMT. Also with some fiber optics that, telecom is growing and with 5G, etc. So we were most on the back end. And then again, looking for those solutions and what the companies needed the most. Then we switched and started working with the SMT industry and EMS companies. And again, we don't only cover that area, but we cover also part of the back end. So we try to give them a full solution for their needs.
And how many different brands do you represent today?
So we have a little bit over 25 lines. Again, the majority, it's on the SMT industry, with some with the cable and harnesses, some fiber optics, and something that we call like laser marking, resistance welding, how do you call it, hot bar technology to flexible circuits to PCB. So that's our main industries.
Okay. And as you said, it's not just the sale of the representing these companies for the sale of their products, but it's also you have a service element to that as well. Can you speak to that?
Yes. So again, as a part of what we saw that the market need, it was the training and service. So we covering with two things. One, we started with a demo center. So we have right now we have 3 SMT lines that doesn't produce any single board. We don't have an oven actually, just so we cannot produce a board, and we do not compete with customers. But we let them come to our facilities and give them training with an equipment, so they don't have to stop the line. They can open a pick and place, play with it, play with the head, do all acquiring all that knowledge, so they can take it to their plant. And we have service guys in our offices and strategic locations throughout Mexico, so we can support the customers. Like that. And also we have a US branch, not to attend the US market, but only to deliver spare parts and everything to the border towns of Mexico. So then they can import it and bring them themselves.
Okay. So as you indicate, the people in the field, if a client who you've supported has a problem at their facility, you're able to go in and troubleshoot that for them?
That is correct. They can send us an email. We will open a ticket, or they can log in into our system, our webpage to the self-service support, create a ticket. We will follow up that ticket, and the customer can see how it is working, and all the notes from the service engineers. And so it's a team effort to give the best response to a customer.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to be in a previous life a general manager of a small manufacturing shop, and I know when the equipment's not working, everybody's in a panic, right? And you got to get them up and going, and the light's green as soon as possible. So
yeah, and again, being 21 years in the market, it's not selling one time and going away. It's being with the customer, helping the customer, helping to achieve their goals, and by that we are able to achieve our goals as well.
Now, you had mentioned before that, when you started, it was in Monterrey, but then also in Guadalajara and Mexico City. But I'd imagine that you're covering even more of Mexico today, in different areas. So kind of speak to that, the areas that you're covering currently.
Yeah, so we have also an office in Juarez, Monterrey, and Guadalajara. Current office with where we have the SMT lines for trainings. And we have strategic people like in Baja, Hermosillo, Reynosa, Matamoros, Querétaro, Puebla, and from the offices we cover the surrounding states and cities. I mean, Mexico is a large country to cover from one single location. Not as big as the US, but still large enough to have multiple offices to cover that.
Yeah. And listen, and that speaks to, I think, one of the benefits that a company like yours brings to companies, right? Is that reach and understanding. So tell me about that. Why would a brand company choose to use a company like Repstronics in Mexico?
So one of the things is that we are, would say, an active rep, an active distributor. We don't just sit waiting for the phone to ring. We try to go and visit as the customers. Actually, some of our principals, when they come and work with us and visit customers, they call it the Repstronics way. We start early in the morning visiting customers, finish at the end, during the day. Long days, we try to squeeze them out the most as possible that day, putting in with the sticky customers and the most as we can. So it's being in front of the customer, asking the questions to them, what they need, what are they struggling with their equipment or their current equipment, and see how we can help them. I think that's the key and our main advantage of that, and being local. Someone you can call, and within 1-2 hours, first level of response, which would be the technical sales guy, can be there. And most of the guys, well, no, not most, everybody is bilingual on the sales force. So we can help either the engineers, or if somebody's coming from aboard, we can help them with that.
Yeah. And I'd imagine that your familiarity and knowledge of these different manufacturers allows you to cross-sell your different brands within an account as well.
Exactly. Sometimes with all these nearshoring happening, there's company relocating their manufacturing processes, and it brings with one of the brands that we handle, so we can introduce them to the different brands. So, and again, since it's not the SMT and also some other parts, we can be in front or before that they even put their SMT line, because they're making this process, and in their plans are to have an SMT line in the future. So that helps us to be before some of others.
Yeah. That was a perfect answer, because it's a nice segue to what I wanted to ask you next, which is talk about that, what the strength of the EMS industry in Mexico. Tell me about how you view that and what you consider to be the real strength in what's happening down there.
Yeah, well, I think in Mexico we have a big advantage, geographic advantage of being close to the US, which is a big market, if not the largest. And we in Mexico, there's also a lot of schools, a lot of engineers. So that's a key advantage besides the geography, is that as a country, we are ready to support companies coming in with knowledge. There's very knowledgeable people about SMT process that they're being in multiple EMS. So they grab the best of different companies, and they can bring a lot to a new company. And a lot of them also has brought manufacturing process from different parts of the world already to Mexico. So they know how to write those processes down, bring that knowledge, put them to work together, in the shortest time possible, because that's something that companies look when they're nearshoring. It's not a big production ramp in 2 years. No, they want to start producing right away.
Exactly right. So with that, though, I mean, with the opportunities, there's obviously challenges. What would you consider for companies coming into Mexico be the main challenges that they face?
Well, some of the challenges are importing from different parts of the world, knowing that what labels have to be on the package in order for introduce those things into Mexico. That's one. Of course, there can be some language barrier, but again, even I have a 5-year-old kid that speaks to me in a decent English now. So there's a lot of people bilingual, but there can be some barrier. The customs, and I think one of the issues is there's so many good locations that it takes some time to choose the best one, because from TJ, Monterrey, Guadalajara, Querétaro, there are many places to be. If you're an EMS looking to start producing in Mexico, I think one of the big decisions is where strategically you wanna be, and that could be a difficulty.
Yeah. Are you asked sometimes to advise people? Do people ask your opinion about where they should be in Mexico?
Yeah, through all these 20 years, different companies have approached us and saying, hey, we produce this, and we want to find people that are knowledge in like this technology, which areas you recommend. We're mainly automotive, we're mainly medical, and stuff like that. And we all try to give our best honest. We're not, we're more selling machines than we don't sell any or lease any space.
Right.
So we try to give them an honest answer, so they can be as successful. And if they're successful, us and some other companies will be successful as well with them.
Yeah, no, that's actually that's a great benefit, right? You offer an objective opinion there. You like you say, you're not selling them their site. But what you mentioned there is interesting about the impact of where the people are to do the work too. So how is the issue of skilled labor and shortage maybe impacting the industry in Mexico? Is that continued to be a challenge?
It's always a challenge, but it's not as bad as some other areas. Of course, there's so many companies coming in that it can be some shortage of people, but there's remote areas in Mexico, like the south part of Mexico, that it's some other states are importing people from those areas to cover that need. And also the government is doing some work to also bring facilities to those areas that has not been many very industrial in the past.
Okay. Do you see that companies have to offer more training these days than in the past?
Oh yeah, and programs for people to go to school. And again, like us, we have 3 SMT lines ready to, hey, bring the engineers, we'll train them. So we don't have affiliations exactly with universities, but there's universities that come here and they students can see the equipment and know a little bit of the industry. I know other companies are putting equipment in the universities, so people outside, they're right out of college and they already know what a pick and plate is, what a size of components, and their ramp will be faster.
Okay. Hey, you mentioned there too, you just in passing about the government, it strikes me that this will be an interesting year in both the United States and Mexico with both having presidential elections, right? And with that often comes change, right? Because I know that in Mexico, you know, the current AMLO, as they call him, cannot serve another term. So how do you expect any waves to impact the industry in from either election here this year down in Mexico?
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's every 12 years we'll have those joint elections. We have it every 6, US every 4. So in 12 years we'll have this conversation again. We had this conversation 12 years ago, and it's always interesting because at the beginning of these years, it brings a lot of uncertainty to companies to see exactly what's going to happen. I don't want to go in details, but the polls kind of see which presidentials are more have the most chances to go to the power. And I believe at the end, after June, these uncertainties will be over, and the companies will have more decision power. Right now, everything is up in the air this half of the year, and I believe the second half, now people will know exactly what's going on and take decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be interesting in that respect. You're right. And I never thought of it. It is every 12 years, isn't it? That those align that way. You're quick on the math there for me. So what is your view then? How do you see the market growing in Mexico over the next few years? You know, presidential elections aside, it seems like things are, it's a strong, all indicators are strong for continued growth.
Yeah, I mean, even with the COVID was a tragedy overall. But on the good side, it showed us that we cannot depend on having all the production overseas, especially for specific components. And we've seen all over the news about the chips and everything that we need to, not only in America, Europe as well, etc. So that opened the eyes for many big companies that they need to produce in the continent. So I think for at least a couple of years or a little bit even more, we're going to start seeing that trend again and again. Of course, there are some other countries that are rising, like India and Bangladesh, which is still low cost, but still are far. And if something happens and the seaports are packed like was LA that you could see the ships online. Your goods were there, were almost in the country, but it took weeks just to being able to unload those containers. So for some companies, you cannot work that way. So that trend we'll continue to see it for a couple of years.
Yeah, and you talked about it too, kind of the nearshoring, reshoring, nearshoring, friendshoring, whatever people wish to call it. And that's exactly what you're describing, seems to be fully on, and that Mexico is certainly going to is spoken about as one of the great beneficiaries of that trend because of, as you said, the proximity to the United States, the skilled labor, the quality of what's going on, the infrastructure that's there, and the great history, 20 plus years that a lot of people have in this industry there.
Yeah, and it's from the whole continent. We're seeing companies in Costa Rica now producing almost 50% of the chips for that company worldwide, which is a really interesting number, and how they did it in this short period of time. Canada as well. So I think as a region, US, of course, it's receiving a lot of those transferring also lines. So it's an interesting time to be in this part of the world.
No, absolutely. I think it's a great time to be in the business that you're in down there. And so tell me, I mean, this has been great. You've given a good overview of what's happening there. If people who are watching this are interested in connecting with you, how do you recommend they do that? Do they go to your website, LinkedIn, or is Repstronics participating in any trade shows that people can go to?
Yeah, we participate on all the SMTA shows locally in Mexico. They can go to our webpage, www.repstronics.com. And of course, we have a LinkedIn profile as well, mine. And I'm a slave of my cell phone, for good or bad. It's +52 333 676 8119. And I've always told to customers, ask me if I have the answer. I'll let you know. If no, and I know somebody that can point you to the right direction, I will give you that contact. But at the end, you will ask me again, and hopefully I'll have that resource, that machine, that equipment. And so it's a matter of helping the customers, helping us each other, and that's been our strategy.
No, and it sounds like it's been a very successful one to you. So, Nacho, thank you for the time. Thank you for introducing. I think you've given a great overview. I think that, the rep firms like Repstronics serve such an important role within the industry, especially for companies who are coming. And I know more are looking at it currently to establish manufacturing down there and grow this. And I think a company like Repstronics will be in a great position to serve them. So, so I wish you continued success, and hopefully we can speak again in the future and hear about some more about what's happening.
Yeah, well, thank you, Eric, for the time and the interview. We will also be at the Apex. So hope I can see you in April at Apex. Also, somebody we can see them over there.
Perfect. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's in April in Anaheim. So it will be good. Excellent. Nacho, again, thank you for your time. This has been fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Eric. Have a great time.
You too.